Hey there, it's another beautiful day. Today, we're going to talk about the Havana syndrome. Let's watch some stuff.
What's the Havana syndrome? Geek out with me. The Havana syndrome is a condition where career diplomats, intelligence officers, and others serving in U.S. missions abroad experienced strange and painful acoustic sensations. The condition got its name in 2016 after a group of diplomats and covert operatives in Havana all came down with similar symptoms. They'd hear some kind of noise or feel some kind of pressure, and then they would suffer from dizziness, nausea, and debilitating headaches that could last for years. Now, it's called the Havana syndrome, but it didn't just happen there. In fact, around 1,000 cases of these incidents, which the U.S. government calls anomalous health incidents, have been reported from U.S. missions around the world. And the U.S. government is still trying to nail down what this is and how it came about.
Now, this wasn't only happening in Havana, Cuba. It also happened in other countries. I know I saw a report while I was doing research about it happening across the UK. There were people there presenting with Havana syndrome-like symptoms. Hey, thanks so much for stopping by today. If you're having a good time, won't you hit that like button for me and consider subscribing, and then come back tomorrow because I'm making a new video every day, all the days. I do this every day. This is what I do. I'm here every day for you.
In 2016, 21 American diplomats in Cuba reported bizarre symptoms to the medical center. They claimed they were hearing novel, localized sound and described them as buzzing, grinding metal, piercing squeals, and humming. These sounds were blood-curdlingly loud, and plugging their ears did not help. 95% of sufferers reported other symptoms following the noises, such as headaches, ear pain, and long-term hearing changes. For days to weeks after their experience, some reported memory problems, impaired concentration, irritability, nervousness, heightened emotion, and sadness. And it seemed like the sounds were targeted. They were only happening to Americans and only in their homes and hotel rooms. Also, even though the sounds were really loud, if they changed their location even just a little bit, like to a different room, they couldn't hear it anymore, making it almost seem like the sound was being aimed at them. The US government sent the FBI to conduct an investigation, but they found no explanation.
Now, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure that I read somewhere that it also had affected some Canadian embassy staff in Havana, Cuba. So there's that. But that is interesting how it was pretty zeroed in on them in a specific spot. At least that's what the reports are. It started out with 21, and I think there's over 1,000 cases of it to date. And there have been some fingers pointed recently.
Behind a mysterious traumatic brain condition affecting hundreds of Americans serving abroad. This raises questions about whether the intelligence community is specifically avoiding placing blame on Moscow. Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin has an update on the possible origin of Havana syndrome.
Essentially, this is an act of war.
In an explosive new report, 60 Minutes, The Insider, and Der Spiegel found new evidence that hundreds of U.S. government employees complaining of sudden neurological symptoms known as Havana syndrome may have been attacked by Russia with a weapon using directed energy.
It was like a high-pitched metallic drilling noise, and it knocked me forward. I immediately felt pressure and pain started coursing from inside my right ear, down my jaw, down my neck, and into my chest.
One of the things I started to notice was the caliber of our officer that was being impacted. There was some angle where they had worked against Russia, focused on Russia, and done extremely well.
Pull over! Pull over!
This car chase near Key West 4 years ago provided key evidence, handwritten notes of bank accounts, a device that can erase the car's computer data, and the driver's Russian passport. Receipts link the suspected attackers to a Russian military intelligence hit squad, GRU Unit 29155.
Certain Russians were in the exact vicinity of attacks in particular countries.
Victims like Adam, who uses an alias and was thought to be patient zero after experiencing crippling auditory sensation that left him unable to walk or move while working undercover in Havana in 2016, responded with relief.
They pulled out receipts from the GRU 29155 group, which explicitly outlines that these are weapons systems and a weapons program.
For years, he and other victims have felt gaslit by their former agency employers.
The intelligence community's broad assessment that a foreign adversary is unlikely to be responsible for these incidents.
The Pentagon has now confirmed a senior U.S. Defense Department official sought medical treatment for symptoms of Havana syndrome at NATO's Vilnius summit last summer.
Russia was like suspect number one pretty much right away. And that's crazy, the kind of stuff that they found on like these Russian people that were in the area where these individuals were having this issue. That's crazy.
60 Minutes reported last night on a connection between anomalous health incidents and a unit of the Russian military intelligence service. What's the White House reaction to that report?
So I'm going to be really careful here. The intelligence community has not concluded that.
How can the administration continue to believe that when you have so many credible U.S. officials who have experienced this saying otherwise?
We have taken this very seriously. The president takes U.S. personnel. Making sure that they are protected is the most important. A couple of steps that we took, we prioritized investigations into the cause of AHIs and to examine reports thoroughly. Now, this is something that the president directed the departments in the federal government, obviously across the federal government, to do. Ensure that U.S. government personnel and their families who report AHIs receive the support and timely access to medical care that they need. And to take reports of AHIs seriously and threat to personnel with respect and compassion.
I used the same video last time we covered the Havana syndrome. And this happened right after the 60 Minutes episode where they're like, hey, it's Russia. And then we're like, yeah, we know it's Russia. It's been Russia for a long time. It's just hard to prove that it's Russia.
Enemy spies not to blame. Mystery illness, Havana syndrome, that apparently affected US personnel worldwide was not caused by a foreign adversary, a years-long US assessment has found. Beginning in 2017, multiple US embassy officials in Havana reported a range of symptoms, including hearing loss, severe headaches and nausea. It also appeared in places such as Colombia, Russia and China. Theories included some kind of sonic weapon being used by a hostile state. US intelligence reviewed around 1,000 cases and have determined it is very unlikely that a foreign adversary was responsible. Not one single explanation was found, but many cases appear to have different causes, from environmental factors to undiagnosed illnesses.
Okay, so now it's not Russia, according to this guy. How can it be like some undiagnosed illness if like over 1,000 people, American people, you know, and some Canadians, so mostly American people, diplomats, had these same symptoms and in such a manner, how could every single one of them have some undiagnosed illness? It can't be possible. Something had to cause that to happen, whether it be something that was put in their drink or in their food, or if it's a frickin' ray gun, right? I know it's not a ray gun, but you know, there are weapons that can cause these issues.
You've heard of the active denial system in the military. It's this dish that sends out a beam of frequency towards people that are looking to do harm. It'll make you stop in your tracks. It'll make you feel like you got to vomit. It'll make you feel like you're on fire. It can even put voices in your head. It's called the active denial system in the military. And the Emerald Tablets, those have...
Nope. We're not talking about Thoth. We're not doing that anymore. The key takeaway is going to be the active denial system. It's huge, right? Well, the ones that I have seen are like these huge rays that are not rays. They're these huge dish-like things that are on top of military vehicles that are out there, and they like aim them at people and it fires a frequency, and the frequency makes them feel, you know, like crap. And it sounds like that's what's happening. Perhaps it was like small down and the Russians got it and they're like, hey, let's do this. I don't know. That's what it sounds like, right? I've also heard that the active denial system has the same frequency as the 5G towers. So that's why a lot of people are having like headaches and stuff like that around these 5G towers.
Christian. Hey, Mike. How are you? Good. So, Christian, I'm really hoping you can help me with the investigation that I'm doing into the Havana syndrome. What can you tell me about this?
This is a serious illness, and from what we know scientifically, I mean, it's real. So, I mean, we've spent some time here now in our own lab, as well as working with the scientific community to really trying to understand the physical origin and the mechanism behind it.
Now, talk to me about the symptoms, the impact that whatever this is having on the victim's brain.
So, I mean, I think there were a series of papers that came out as sort of the post-evaluation as the diplomats came back, and that was pioneered by the University of Pennsylvania and their medical school. And one of their reports is right here on the screen. So this is an MRI scan that's comparing the findings in the screened diplomats that came back versus a healthy control group.
So walk me through this, Christian. What are we looking at here?
Every time where you see a color indicates a difference between a healthy individual and someone that suffered in one of these attacks. Okay. So if everybody was healthy, you wouldn't see any color.
Really?
Okay. So what you're looking at here specifically is, so the blue indicates there was a loss in tissue structure in the folks that were exposed, and in red you're looking actually like at a gain in tissue. So densification in one area and sort of a loosening, opening of the tissue in another area. So you can see it's massive. The symptoms were very similar to what you would see in traumatic brain injury victims. So we've seen similar pattern in regular concussion victims, but then we've also seen patterns like this in veterans that came back and suffered from blast exposures.
We went from it being a thing to it's not really a thing to now it's really a thing in the brain. And he said it's akin to concussions. I found this.
Have you heard about Havana syndrome? Pause to read this. Now keep that in mind when I describe Subproject 54. Subproject 54 was the Naval's perfect concussion program, where the goal was to be able to give someone a concussion without actually touching them. They used sub-frequency blasts to try and erase memory, give concussions, etc. It's claimed that the project ended in the 1950s and was never tested on humans. But, interesting when thinking about Havana syndrome and that program.
So this Subproject 54 was actually part of the MK Ultra program run by the United States government. No wonder it was only U.S. citizens that were coming down with these symptoms. I know, and some Canadians, according to my Google search. But that's crazy. So is it possible that these were test subjects of the United States government trying to bring back this perfect concussion machine? I don't know. There's a lot of evidence pointing that way. There's still a lot of evidence pointing to Russia, too. It's a huge mystery. It's a huge mystery, and we're just chasing our tail on it pretty much, aren't we? Well, that's it for me today. I'm going to call it. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Come on back tomorrow. We're going to watch some new stuff. I'll say different things, and it's going to be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day.